Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the live reading. It's going to be a bit of a dishevelled show today because I forgot to put the appropriate light on. Any minute, I'm going to get a knock at the door, or potentially could get a knock at the door, and someone is going to ask me if you could move your van, mate. Somebody's parked in my space at the back of the house here where I live, and it clearly says no parking, keep off, go away. Don't you dare stick your car there. And somebody, every now and again it happens, I've got nowhere else to put my van, so I've just blocked about 3 people in. But I've got a live show to do, and I've had some editing to do, and, you know, so I put a note saying, bang on the door. So if I suddenly have to disappear, that's what it is. Julia understands, and if somebody's extra joined and said, well, what's happened to him? She can explain that to you. Somewhat stressed this afternoon with estate agent issues, but that's another thing you probably don't want to know about. And I don't know if you've noticed my little flower, my neon flower here. It's packed up. Don't know why that is. So that's annoying. I may have to just have this door open. Otherwise, I won't hear the knock. Anyway, I'm a bit early, actually, so apologies for that. Got here a bit early. A couple of other things I wanted to mention, so just bear with me a second and I'll be straight back. You don't get this on the BBC, do you? So, whilst I've got a couple of minutes, just so I don't want to start too early and then, you know, have people a bit annoyed. And anybody watching this can fast forward through all of this if they're watching on the rerun. So, first of all, Pamela Green. I don't think Pamela Green watches these, but I'm not sure. So, if she is, she just sent in a couple of books to me, which is very kind. The illustrated book of trees, as you can see here, and the illustrated of flowerless plants, which is a lot of mushrooms, toadstools, fungi, and ferns, and things like that, which is interesting, and seaweeds and lichens and things. So it's interesting. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. I will. I've emailed her anyway, or text us, so that's that. And also, a couple of authors got in touch with me, and somewhere in here I've got this card. I just wanted to share this with you whilst we do this thing on books. Sorry about the banging of the microphone. And this is somebody called Susan Ballinger and Pete Coombs, who've written this book, and they just got in touch with me a few days ago. The book is called Tales from the Tombstone, and what they have done is they've gone around a number of counties, unfortunately not Sussex, so I can't immediately check some of these out, but have gone and looked at various tombstones, worked out who the people were, and worked out their story and put it into a little book, and it all looks very nice, actually. Sorry, I was trying to show you some of the pictures and various things in it. If they were more local, it would be quite nice to have gone and explored some of that. But where have they gone? Let's have a look. It does say where they've gone. Gloucester, Worcester, Warwickshire, Wiltshire, Somerset, Devon, Oxfordshire, Cornwall and Dorset, all down in the southwest, really. So it would be quite fun to go and look some of these up and tell the story myself, and, you know, use some of their research. And I said, is that okay? And they wanted to send me the book anyway. So that's very kind. So if they're watching, thank you for that. I'll probably talk about it in the Vobes show as well. So that's all something a bit different. Tomorrow's series, Sherlock Holmes. There we are. So Michael White says, nice of Pamela. Yes, no, people have been very, very kind. So it's now 4 o'clock. As I say, I might at any minute get asked to shift my van to let somebody out, who I will give them a "don't park in my spot, mate," because that's what happened. I'm a belligerent old bugger. I'll just block them in. So hello, let's do a quick couple of hellos to people. Hello to Adrian from TurboStream, who was first in today, to Charlie Cooper, to the lovely Julia, to Justine Jones. It's a different neighbour, Justine. To John Morris, to Tall Podge, nice to see you back again. To Lee Lawson, I hope you've tuned in now. Dudley Sawyer. Is Dudley Sawyer tuned in? Anne H, John F, Billabong O'Neill, Diane Rolfe, who says sorry about the parking issue. Here's the news. Says, here's the news. Some people are so inconsiderate. Parking issues here too. It's just a nightmare. And now there are spaces in the lane that I could go and park in somebody else's space, but that's not my space. And I don't think it's I think it's then I'm just pushing the problem down the road. They'll come out and say, oh, she's got this dirty great van parked here in my space, so that I'd be upsetting somebody else. I don't think that's the right way to do it. Philip Hammond and Mary, good afternoon, Richard. Thank you for your note, Mary, about the jumpers. Looking forward to getting new jumpers on Monday. Very kind. Charlie Cooper, Michael White, Aaron Arisis. Tomorrow, I don't know how you pronounce your surname. I'm not very good on names, unless they're very easy to say. Peter Coombs, thank you very much. You like our book. Oh, that's marvellous that you're there. Fantastic. Yes, it arrived. As I say, I've only got it today and I've had a quick look through. It looks great. And when I start going westwards, and I will be, because I'm going to be, especially next year in the spring, we're going to be following in the footsteps of some of our authors that we've been reading and visiting some of the places. So I think this will be great to go and look up some of the tombstones and the places that you mention. And it's great that you've done this sort of stuff. I wish more people would do it, because as it says on the back of your book here, churchyards and churches stand as silent witness to many of life's events, such as births, marriages and death. In times of war and peace, they silently watch as generation after generation passes by. But if you look a little closer, they will reveal the secrets to you. This book gives a brief history of those beautiful churches, alongside some of the stories behind the graves. And I think that's brilliant. That it must have taken you a long time. Be interesting, actually, at some point. I don't know if you're up for it, Susan and Pete, to do an interview about the research and how you found out all the information and how long it took you to write the book and all that, and we can promote the book at the same time. I don't know where it's available. Presumably, it's on Amazon. Is it? It's Tales from the Tombstone by S. Ballinger and P. Coombs. So if you're interested in that, check it out. But we go on to Lift Luck on Southern Roads this afternoon. I apologise if I suddenly disappeared and moved my van. I know it's very unprofessional. I could have put my van in Morrison's, but I want to show the person who's parked there, don't park there, because this is what happens. You'll get blocked in. And on a Friday, I'm hoping that they haven't parked there for the whole weekend. So anyway, we are on chapter 18. Yes, only on Amazon at the moment. There we go, on Amazon. Fantastic. Well, that's okay. That's where people buy it. Good luck with the sales, and hopefully, people will. I'll talk about it also in the Vobes show tonight at 8 o'clock on the Vobes show channel. In the meantime, our hapless hero. He's not so hapless. He's been very lucky on his journey. He has arrived. Did we find out where Little Cot was? I think somebody said that Little Cot was 5 miles south of Winchester. Is that what we ended up with? We found Littleton, I think, and then Nigel Sadler knew of a Little Cot over at Hungerford, didn't he? So anyway, let me know. Littlecott, I found, lay up a side lane close by the great main road to Winchester. It missed the din and dust of the highway only by a few hundred yards, but in itself was quiet enough. Sitting at lunch in the common room of the inn by the open window, I could hear the low roar of the motor traffic afar off, a deep sound much like that of a busy London street, but lacking its continuity. Here was a pulse, beating strong, yet slow. There was always the rustling, mighty voice of the wind in the trees, but this voice deepened to bass, then back again to its hissing tenor as each motor swept by. It's interesting he calls them motors instead of motor cars. For the first time on my ramble, I found myself listening to the noise of mechanical traffic, almost with pleasure, so rhythmic and restful was the sound. I think that was the estate agent ringing me back, but I'm doing a live show, so I can't take the call. And I did tell them, don't call between 4 and 5. They never listen. I could have put him on air, couldn't I? And we could have all listened in, but I'm sorry about that. What I was going to say there was, yes, there is him saying that he listens to the mechanical traffic with pleasure, a rhythmic and restful sound. You wait 110 years to today, and it's not quite so rhythmic. It's just constant now. It's a constant burble in the background that is driving us all insane and giving us a low-level amount of stress. I'm convinced of it. Anyway, out again in the frolicking sun and shadow of the street, I looked about me for the post office. I soon found it. It was a queer old house with latticed casements above and bull's-eyes panes in the lower windows. Here, the only sign of postal business was a letterbox, the windows being filled with the usual heterogeneous... That's not how you say it, is it? Heterogeneous wares of the village shop. Rather undecided as to what lay before me, I first strolled by on the opposite side of the way. Then, crossing the street, I came back to the little shop and fell into studying the contents in the window. The shop seemed outrageously dark within. I could see nothing but what lay immediately under my eyes: bacon, candles, corduroy trousers, sheep dip, linen drapery, all the usual happy family of village needs. How extraordinary that he would have bacon and corduroy trousers all laid out in the window. It's extraordinary. But just as I was meditating another quiet turn down the road, still undecided as to the procedure, the sun came sparkling out behind me, and one rich yellow beam struck into the gloom of the shop. I all but started back. Right in its dazzling path stood a figure, that of a tall, bright, happy-looking girl. She had just risen from the little desk at the counter where she'd been writing. She stood quite still in the sun, her brown eyes meeting its rays unflinchingly. Every little detail of her face was revealed to me with microscopic clearness. Her ruddy cheeks and lips, her firm brows, her dark abundance of hair flowing back from a high forehead. And she was laughing about something. The conviction fell upon me that it was at the sight of my own face pressed upon the glass. No doubt she had been watching me all the time. There was only one thing to be done. Putting on my most benevolent, most fatherly air, I opened the door of the shop and went in. I bought stamps, picture postcards, notepaper, and a pencil that I didn't want, finally asking permission to write a letter at the little desk. And all the time I was falling head over heels in love with Clara. She seemed so merry and winning and frank. She She had a fund of talk, such an artisan well of laughter at the smallest pleasantry, was so genuinely happy to help a stranger in his need for local information, that I was presently vowing in my heart that no swashbuckling soldier should ever have her, and that she should mate with my young archangel of the forest if I had to stand guard at the door until he came and took her off to the church. But what could I really do to further the matter? Very little, it seemed to me, as I sat ostensibly busy with my writing, but actually studying Clara out of the tail of my eye as she went about her work in the shop. I had a forlorn hope at first that I might lead her on to making a confidant of me, as soon as the groom, in the same way the groom had done. In the event, my task would have been easy. But obviously this was the last thing in the world likely to happen. She was certainly not in love with anyone, nor had she a care in life, to judge from her bright, contented face. But what if I told her about the conversation in the wood and urged her to make her young suitor happy in the only way that happiness could ever come to him? I knew that, being a woman, this would infallibly decide her in the opposite way. I spun my letter out at an unconscionable length. I finished one sheet and began another. I gnawed at the end of the pen holder. At last, I sorrowfully gave up the whole business. "Kismet," said I, half aloud, wholly in desperation, and all the time the very thing that I wanted lay in the palm of my hand. Clara had gone to the shop door and looked up the street. Looking for whom? I asked myself, yet needing no answer. Now she came towards me, bringing a piece of blotting paper. I lifted my hand with the thing. It was a paperweight with which I'd been toying all the time, not one of an uncommon pattern, a ball of glass embedded in a plinth of some dark shining wood. "What do you use this for?" I asked her. She gave me a laugh and a look. "What do I use it for?" she said. "It keeps the papers from flying away when the door is opened. And, but can it be used for a different purpose? Don't you know that some people can tell fortunes by looking into a glass ball like that?" Again, the little dark shop rang with that merry laugh, and if I had been in any doubt of the wisdom of my purpose, it was in no sort of doubt then. In the midst of her merriment, she suddenly became grave. "Can you do it?" "Well, I've often tried. Sometimes I've succeeded, and sometimes I've failed. Would you like me to see if I can tell your fortune?" She looked back into the inner room, apparently to assure herself that there was nobody within earshot. "It is rather stupid, isn't it? I shouldn't believe a word. Of course, it's all nonsense, but do try, will you? Just close your hands over the ball for a moment. Now give it to me. Here we go. Here is the door knock that I knew was going to come. Bear with me a second. I will see what it is." Oh, so we might be there all night. I don't know what to do with the van now.
Tuck it in there if you want. Are you going anywhere?
No.
No, if you tuck it in there and I'll book you in, and I'll be going to work tonight. Anyway.
Oh, all right. So do that. Brilliant. I'll see you around then. I will return, ladies and gentlemen. I've just got to move the van back and let my neighbour out, not the person who's parked in my space. I'll be back soon. I'm back. I'm so sorry. How long was that? That was a good 5-6 minutes, wasn't it? I do apologise. And sadly, that wasn't the culprit. That was just my neighbour, who very kindly said, go in his space, back up a bit. He'll box me in. I don't need to go out anywhere. He's going to work tomorrow, and hopefully... But apparently this person is somebody else in the bloody parade of houses, the row of terraces. So I need to educate them. So I'll have to put a note on their thing, unless they've moved it later on. You never know. Anyway, I apologise for that. Bit of a nightmare. Right, where were we? So he's reading in the crystal ball. I was hoping that we could almost finish this. Can you do it? I tried it off and yeah, okay. Just close your... So here we go. Just close your hands over the ball for a moment. Now give it to me. You must keep quiet while I look into it. Years ago, I'd seen a professional crystal grazer at work, so I was well up in the business. I looked solemnly down into the ball. There is nothing yet, I said, after a long pause. It's all cloudy. Ah, the clouds are beginning to move. Yes, they seem to be clearing. I can see something now. I see some figures. Let me see. Men. Yes, men, I think. But it is still too misty. Yes, there are 2 men. One is much higher up than the other. Oh, I can make them out now. One is on horseback and the other is walking by his side. There the clouds have come back. Wait, I see nothing. There was no laugh now. The girl leaned her hand up upon the desk. The desk trembled. Do look again. Do, please. I bent to the pious deception once more, renouncing my own philosophy as to means and ends. It is still cloudy. No, there's nothing at all. Oh, wait. The clouds are on the move again. There is only 1 figure now. No, there's 2, but the horseman has fallen far behind. He is only a speck in the distance. The man in front is walking fast. I can make him out quite plainly. He carries a little cane, has a funny-looking hat on his head. He seems to be dressed in dark clothes. Ah, I see. It is a dark green uniform. He is a soldier, a burly young man with... Oh, how provoking. The clouds have rolled over the picture again and hidden everything. I stole a look at Clara's face. The colour on her cheeks had all centred into 2 bright patches, and she was biting her lip, as I could have sworn, with vexation. Go on. Do look again. That cannot be all. You can never tell, you know. Sometimes it leaves off just like that, and nothing comes again, but I will try. I let some moments pass while I stared into the depths of the crystal. The little shop was quiet as death, but for the girl's quick breathing. When I judged her sufficiently primed, I got to work again. Ah, now the mists are moving fast. Yes, there's a figure. It's the soldier again, and he's still alone. I cannot see the horseman. Wait, it's so misty behind. He may be only hidden. Ah, now he has come into full view. He is much nearer. He is catching the soldier up again. Now he is abreast of him, has passed him, and is pressing on front. Ah, the soldier has lost the race, and no wonder. He is hopelessly in the rear. Why, he has stopped, turned and gone back. And the horseman is coming on faster than ever. Now I can see his face. What a handsome young fellow. There is something hanging from his saddle peak. Something bright and red. Oh, but the mists are gathering. I can scarcely make it out. What is it? Oh, yes, now I see. It's a bunch of red flowers. Roses, I think. But it's all getting so vague. Ah, the clouds have come up. I can see no more. It's finished. I put the crystal aside and turned again to my letter. For a full 2 minutes, Clara stood at my elbow like a woman changed into stone. Then she backed away slowly. "You are a wizard," she said, after a little while, with a little high-strung, nervous laugh. "I'm frightened out of my wits, but of course it's all nonsense." "Oh, very likely," I returned as casually as possible, looking up from my writing. "I should advise you not to give it a serious thought. The present is far too important in life for us to bother about the future." I hastened to add a postscript to the letter. "Remember, not a word about our meeting at Titherley, nor of your having seen or heard of me in your life. All's fair in love and war. You are to come to Littlecote at your usual time on Sunday afternoon, and whatever you do, do not forget the roses. She may or may not tell you of the visit of an elderly gentleman who discovered such surprising things in the paperweight. I think she will keep this secret forever, or at least for the next 2 weeks or so, but if she does tell you, be sure to look sufficiently astonished. And now I must get a lift into Winchester as quickly as possible to post this letter. Goodbye, my dear boy. Go and win, and good luck to you, and God's blessing on you both." Well, what do you make about that? We are on chapter 19 at past. And look, we've only got a little. We're not going to finish the book today. I'm going to suggest, if you're up for it, that we do a live tomorrow at 4 and see if we can rattle off the finish of the book. If that's okay with everyone. Sorry about earlier. Sunday morning in Winchester, and so far the coldest, the brightest, the breeziest morning of all. In the cathedral close, the leaves were flying. Grey pigeons fluttered here and there on the vast front of the cathedral, or lanced down through the sunlight. The transverse paths in the close were thronged with people, all hurrying towards the west door. And over all, far up in the blue sky, it seemed a solemn, deep-throated bell tolled for service, its hoarse voice strangely varying, as though the wind drove the sound about just as it was driving the red lime leaves. This was no ordinary Sunday that I had chanced upon in Winchester. The autumn assizes were being held, and today the judges would attend the cathedral service in state, escorted thither by the mayor and corporation in full regalia. I'd been warned that if I would secure one of the coveted seats in the chancel between the choir stalls and the sanctuary, I must get there betimes. But even this early, all the town seemed to be flocking towards the cathedral. I made what haste that was decently possible, and found myself at length on one of the foremost benches, whence I had an uninterrupted view down the vast nave. With most cathedrals, the immediate effect of being in them is to make you think of other cathedrals. An endless array of comparisons spring up in the mind, and the pleasure that you might have in what is before you is discounted by the memory of something finer farther away. But Winchester has this unique quality that once you have passed its door, it is the only cathedral in the world for you. Other great and beautiful churches are greater and more beautiful, it may well be, but the loveliest and grandest of them is only built of stone, while Winchester is built of air and sunlight. And not only that, the very life of the air in its soaring, snow-white intricacy of column and arch, so that every cloud that dims the sun changes it bodily, and the travelling light forms and dissolves and forms again its aerial masonry, giving you the impression of a great white rose expanding its multitudinous petals under your very eyes. So it seemed to me, as I sat in the crowded chancel, waiting for the arrival of the judges and their municipal escort. Through the towering choir screen, black with the venerable blackness of age, which is never sombre, the whole vast nave was visible. The sunshine coming aslant through the windows of the eastern aisle struck only upon those wonderful fluted pillars, leaving the bays between quiet in twilight, and giving the nave an appearance of immeasurable length and height. I tried to estimate the girth of the great columns, the span of the arches, the real altitude of the forest roof of white tracery overhead, the distance between the reredos, carved out of the same summer cloud like stone, and the west door, open and framing in a vivid rectangle of autumn crimson and gold. But the thing was impossible. Human ideas of measuration seemed to fail here, as they failed in the night star-house of the ether. It was not that you were brought face to face with utter boundlessness, it was that there was nothing here to measure, nothing that began or ended, nothing that kept solidity or dimension for more than a moment. In the sunlight, incessantly flowing or waning to and fro, in the shadows, for ever-changing place and form and intensity, in the very air of the place that seemed to give a mirage power of hiding the real stone, while giving shape and substance to the mere dust motes, there was the same irresistible feeling of growth, of beautiful expanding, of soaring effervescence, as though we, wandering children in the wilderness, had stopped here to make holy ground for worship, and forthwith the cloudy pillar had enveloped us, leaguing with the sunshine to build us a tabernacle out of mist and light. It's a very heady description, isn't it, that I'm not quite sure I got completely right, but hey-ho. A strange silence, the whispering, rustling silence that always holds where a great congregation is brought together, dwelt in the entire cathedral. The bell still tolled, making a solemn, sweet, booming sound, very quiet and far away. The minutes crept on. At length this bell stopped, and high up in the cathedral tower the clock began to strike, droned through its 11 muffled mighty notes, then seemed to leave the whole building vibrating in a deeper silence than ever. For the whispering and rustling had abruptly ceased. All eyes were now turned towards the far-off western door, where, out in the wind and leaf-winnowed sunlight, another crowd was gathered. I could hear the low tumult of their voices, strangely contrasting with the hush, close-wrought expectant that was over the great concourse within. I looked at the sea of rapt, intent faces around me. I knew that my own face showed the same eagerness, the same downright excitement, and I asked myself, were we agog with this strained expectancy really because of the thing that had ostensibly brought us there? The two seemed out of proportion. There we were, standing on tiptoe, neck craning beyond neck, every eye fixed on that patch of far-off flickering sunshine, just for what, to all but me, must have grown a familiar spectacle, coming twice a year in our lives. What? I don't really understand what's going on here. I hope you've got a better idea. Presumably he's waiting for the judges, is it? What is it really that moved so strangely the other units in the crowd was known probably not even to themselves. Instinct brought them there. They stayed. They went home again, the pulse gratified. But for myself, an old and often inconvenient habit of analysing emotions seemed to give a clue to the situation. I had come to the cathedral for the place itself, with but a casual, almost languid interest in what I was to see. Yet 20 minutes of waiting in that vast, quiet, cavernous place had wholly transformed me. Why? I asked myself again, and the answer seemed to be, though I cared little for church-going judges and corporations, that I cared a great deal for what they alone could now bring me. That long wait in the cathedral, wherein I had drunk my fill of the beauty of form, rightly the one appeal of architecture, had left me hungering and thirsting for the other two that would go to make the trinity of perfect beauty, generous colour and sound. In the whole wide space there was a blackness of carven, oh yes, carven as in carving. There was a blackness of carven oak and the wreathing pale loveliness of stonework, but of colour almost nothing, and of music only the dim, reiterated tone. No wonder those who pass so much of their lives in one hueless precinct of these great churches delight to make of their ritual a feast of music and colour. It becomes the necessity that knows no law. If at that moment the very Pope of Rome had filled Protestant Winchester with all the glittering mitres and monstrances, all the flaring perambulation of gold and purple in his great see, I, for one, should have only been delighted and edified. I stood staring down the misty sunlit glade of the cathedral, ripe and ready for the bravest that the legal and the civic pomp could show. My God, that's all a little bit self-indulgent there. I have to say, it's very rare that he gets into these heady paragraphs of claptrap. But anyway, I hope it meant something to you listening to it, because I was struggling to get sense of it. But there, anyway, the silence then seemed too profound to be broken by anything short of a thunderclap. But as the cutting of a silken cord launches a great battleship, the merest thread of music now brought our whole great house of quiet tumbling about our ears. Outside, in the rippling sunshine of the cathedral close, there rang out one long, dim fanfaronade of trumpets, and at once the waiting choir burst forth. 100 voices, it seemed, led by the great organ, sent the strains of the national anthem flooding to the roof. The procession began to pour up the nave, the white surpliced singing choir, the priests, the judges, the garrison commandants, the mayor with aldermen and councillors in train. Scarlet of divinity and scarlet of law, scarlets of municipal and military power, gold glint of uniforms, college hoods in crimson and white and blue, the rich deep purple of the councillors' robes, and the bedizened beadle carrying his shining mace on high. The whole stream of luxuriant colour came flowing up the wide nave, up the chancel steps, and drew to rest in the place of honour reserved for it amidst the black filigree of the stalls. Every gleam of prismatic light and every note of that grand symphony came to me like rain after a drought. Eyes and ears drank deep, drank again and again, while the judges in their wigs and ermine capes settled down to their places, and the mayor rustled to his throne behind the mace, and the officiating priests got out their holy books for the service to come. The music died away. The silence gathered again. And in the midst of it came one low, clear note from the organ, followed by words that all but startled an exclamation from my lips. I will rise and go to my Father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven, and before thee, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Here was an absolutely astounding thing. The very words I heard a week before in the little church on Ilchester Marches, raised in exhortation to a crowd of poverty-stricken peasants, were now chosen to admonish this exalted company. High-placed clerics and eminent judges, gallant master soldiers, the chief dignitaries of a great provincial town, here they were all together, ready to kneel in prayer on the fine carpets of a cathedral, at call of the same simple words that had brought the yokels to their knees on the drugget of the little village church. I was startled, I say, at this obvious, inevitable thing. I know, and I knew then, that I had no more reason to be startled than at the sight of blue in the summer sky. But for all that, it came to me with an intensely novel awakening force, for we all live in our lives under the shelter of great truths, and just because they are common, universal, eternal, we seldom think of looking up to see what blesses us. Sunshine, the air, the bread-giving earth, the Catholic faith, shall we in their full enjoyment ever be great enough to estimate them at the price of their loss? I had listened to the old English morning prayer in so many churches, great and small, but never with so much delight and profit as there in the crowded chancel of Winchester. It was leisurely and staid and reverent. Quietude, hastelessness were the dominant keynotes through all, and the music seemed to me the last thing in refined beauty. It was good to see the worldly old judges, the apple-faced mayor and the gorgeous beadle, singing out lustily together. Good to see all the kneeling, scarlet and homespun, high and low, in the same common brotherhood of prayer. And when sermon time came, and the judge's chaplain mounted the pulpit instead of Winchester's usual mentors, it was good to see dean and canons and Pemberys settling down to listen with the humblest layman there. He was a personable man, the judge's chaplain, a fine, stalwart, thick-set man with a woolsey face and carriage, admirably set off by his flowing black silk robes, his cambric weepers, his Durham hood of brilliant blue. He began the usual long and quaint exhortation to prayer for all manner of things under the sun, delivered with such sonorousness and formality. This done, he faced squarely about, studied the elements in his congregation for a quiet moment or two, and then began his discourse in a very different strain. It was not long before I guessed that he had lately received much of the same sharp reminder of that gilding propensities of time as had come to me in Amesbury while listening to the Song of the River. I judged him to have been thinking a good deal on the matter of late, as I myself had been doing. Only in his case, apparently, no wise man had come to his elbow with counsel such as had put Only in his case, apparently no wise old man had come to his elbow with counsel such as had put my own dubities at rest. The problem of how to grow old cropped up continually in the trend of the sermon, but each time he touched upon it, I could not see that he had brought down a solution much nearer. Rather, he called down about it obscuring thoughts of melancholy and foreboding with a curious resignation which seemed to harden rather than temper. And the deeper he got into his subject, the more profoundly it seemed to lead him into trouble and tentative paths. He had loved life well, I should say, and small blame to him, and it was a sore thing, though he would never own to it, to see it slipping away. His words seemed to carry a vision of life as a voyage on a river whose course had lain many leagues through spangled meadow and prosperous sunshine. But now there was visible ahead a wall of ominous grey mist into which the river flowed and vanished, to come out again, no doubt into great brilliance and prosperity than ever. But through what dark interval and when? Oh my God, please let's get to the end of this load of old cogitation. There's a last bit which I think we're going to end up finishing on. He began with rather an over-refinement of manner, the pregnant words clogged, as I thought, by too much breeding in a sincere, earnest man. I guessed as he warmed to his work that he would sooner or later break away from these cobweb manacles, the aegis of his office, and that the truth, naked-souled man, would win boldly out. I guessed that he... Well, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit bored with this business. And so it happened, always with complete reserve and restraint, never letting his voice lift above its steady level. The strong nature of the man began to vibrate and heave under the suave exterior and professional gravity and importance. And in the end, he made a great triumph out of his very difficulties. There was no doubt of the meaning he flashed to us then. Old age must come, death must come. We must all pass into the valley of the shadow. These were the great mysteries. If you could admit their truth and still face them all without tremor of foreboding, well, then you are more human, and you are more than human, more than I. See how the shadows gather round the way and will not be denied, and yet be of good heart. There is still something, the one great saving clause to be reckoned with. It was all not told in these words, nor in any words. What? It was all not told in these words, nor in any words, but by a look. Oh, I see. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I understand what he's trying to say. It was all not told in these words, not in any words, but by a look, an eloquent pause, a bowed head, and then the spoken line, clear and low in the silence. Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. Well, I don't know whether you understood any of that. I'm afraid that last whole business in the Winchester Cathedral is far too lofty for me to even conceive or understand or get any sort of sense, other than the fact that he waited and was very, very overawed by the place that he was in, and then the procession came full of colour and he was like slapped in the face with impressiveness. But by God, that was hard reading, and I guess it was even harder listening, and I apologise for that. We should get back to the more fun elements of his journey rather than those. But I guess sometimes you need a little bit of that, if you're quietly reading that, back in 1910, puffing on your pipe, you probably got something out of it. Abide with me, my favourite hymn, says Ed Loud. Is that Abide with me? Is that the hymn? Abide with me, fast falls the eventide. I don't know what that means. I have absolutely no idea, and I don't really care. I'm afraid religion does leave me a bit cold, even though I like history, landscape and nature, or heritage. It does leave me sort of like, or I like the architecture, and I like the fact that tell me about the masons who built the place and the little rude misery chords that they carved onto the pews. That's what, is real to me, is earthy and genuine, and people living their real lives, not the lofty nonsense that seems to be emitted. But what did you make of it? Never mind what I made of it. What did you make of it? Tall Podge says we all got through with it. Yes, I'm so sorry. It just seemed like really digging way through treacle, and I guess that is the risk you take with older books. So we have... I'm not going to finish this. I don't think... I should maybe finish this in 2 jaunts. So maybe I should wait till Monday. Have the weekend off. I was thinking of doing some more tomorrow, but maybe I'll wait till Monday. I thought we might just get through this and finish it tomorrow, but I don't think we will. So we'll go back on to do that on Monday, if that's okay. Sorry about me moving my van. And then maybe Wednesday we will commence with the book that Justine Jones very, very kindly sent, on sovereign English roads, which I think is very light. Again, the weather smiled on us as we left Tunbridge Wells, a bound for East Grinstead one sunny morning with the fine weather, cloud-dappled sky overhead. The barometer was on the rise, so we had no fear or thought of rain. Indeed, our experiences had ever been that it is dust rather than rain which the driving tourist has to dread in English travel. A drier climate would not be nearly so desirable nor so delightful for such an exhibition. I once tried in my younger, more venturous days a riding tour in far-off California, where the scenery is so grand and the climate so rainlessly perfect during the summertime, but a very few days' experience of the rough, dusty roads or tracks convinced me that in spite of it all that's been sung and said, ideally in praise of the perpetual sunshine, a long spell of dry weather makes touring by road anything but a delight. It's a nice sort of conversational type of book. I like those more conversational types of books where you can just, perform a bit more. Anyway, still like and impressed by Tickner Edwards, so all good. Thank you very much for joining me. There's another Vobes show tonight, the last one this week, and we'll have a bit more of an examination of this book, thanks to Susan and Pete for sending it in, their book about tombstones and things, and we'll find out if other people are interested in that sort of thing. You never know. You never know what happens in the show. But that's it for this time. I'll let you know if I manage to get my van, the Black Maria, back into its proper position, and if I manage to get my cudgel out and bosh the damn parker who's parked in my space. Don't worry about moving the van, says Anne H. It was proof of a live show. Yes, that's true. Monday reading sounds great to me. I'll be out all weekend. Have a lovely relaxing day. Sorry I haven't got to your comments today. I was trying to sort of get as much as we could. Churches are nice, says Josh Hastings. I mean, I do like the churches, absolutely. Here we go. We'll catch up the last bit later, says Michael. Nigel Sadler, hi, just got back to the office. You read it very well. Thank you, Lee. I mean, everyone's very kind. My reading, it is atrocious. I know it's atrocious, but you're all very, very kind. So there we go. Thanks, Richard. Have a great weekend. Well read. Bits of it, bits of it. I like the bits where I can just... There's a thing that comes to you when you read. I don't know whether anybody else reads out loud, but there's a thing where you lose the fact that you're reading. You don't see the words. It is like performing on a stage. You forget that these are pre-written words. It just comes to you, and it's like improvising or singing, I imagine, when you know a song and you know the words so well, and there's moments that you lose yourself in the text, and actually the body is reading the words, you're not actually looking at the words. And then every now and again there are phrases which catch you, there are words that trip you, and old-fashioned words, we know his terminology is a bit outmoded, and so suddenly looking at that and going, oh, okay, I know what you mean. And sometimes I've actually paraphrased what's really written there because I realised I've missed a thing, and I have to try and make it into make sense. And sometimes, of course, I lose the complete sense of it altogether. I think that must happen to everybody. But the more you do it, the better it gets, I guess. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you either later on or next week. Take care. Thanks very much. Julia and I have got another video made, and it's out. So, it'll be out tomorrow. That's what I'm saying. I'm going to go and make myself a nice cup of tea and cook myself a purple cauliflower cheese. Till next time, thanks for watching. Bye for now. Bye-bye.